Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for this really interesting talk, Harnessing Your Happiness Hormones. My name is Suzanne Pachetti Johnson. I'm the program manager for Avenues to Wellness. We are a program of the Frank R. Howard Foundation, and this is our speaker series. I am delighted to introduce our speaker tonight, Nick Lawrence. Nick is a family resiliency and relationship coach, and he is also the director of Tools for Life, a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping people thrive. Thank you very much for being here tonight, Nick.
It's my true pleasure, and I love nothing more than to share my life's passion with people. All right, so let's get started. Harnessing Your Happiness Hormones. And the subtitle is How to Manage Your Autonomic Nervous System and Help Your Loved Ones to Manage Theirs. You can do this, and so can your kids. 3-year-olds can do this when properly instructed. So it really is for everybody. And I believe it's what I'm going to share with you tonight is some of the most important information that a human being can have about their own health and wellness and vitality and being able to cope with the ups and downs of life. So what exactly are hormones and why are they so important? Well, our bodies have a highly sophisticated way of staying healthy. Each organ does its part and they work together as a whole person, a whole you. Hormones are chemicals that serve as messengers, controlling and coordinating activities throughout the body. A gland or organ will send its hormone through the bloodstream or nervous system to its target. Like growth hormone starts at your brain, but it tells your bones to grow. Your nervous system produces happiness or stress hormones based on your perception of safety or danger in any given. Now there's a word in this last sentence that is key to understanding how your body works. So you each look at this and come up with in your mind which word you think is the most important word here. And if anybody's willing to guess, you could raise your hand and guess. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Perception.
That's right. It's the perception of safety or danger. Because if you perceive that you're safe, you will be making happiness hormones, regardless of the situation. And if you perceive that you are in danger, you will be making stress hormone, regardless of the current situation, whether you are in danger or not. And that is what the whole goal is in most of my teachings, is about noticing those internal sensations that let you know whether you're feeling safe or whether you're feeling like you're in danger. And then doing specific activities, which I will share with you in just a few minutes. So your attitude towards life is controlled by the amount of happiness or stress hormones you produce consistently over time. What this means is that for some people who are raised in a violent household or have scarcity of food or housing or I was going to say shelter as well as housing, any of these things that cause their parents high levels of stress, then they will also, this is like a generational kind of trauma, they will also start to produce the same level of stress hormone, and that becomes their default mechanism, producing stress hormone, and they don't realize that they're not producing happiness hormones. So the more stress hormone you produce, the scarier and more uncomfortable your everyday life experience. And most people don't notice when they're producing low levels of stress hormone. Okay, so the hormones that we are looking at today are the happiness hormones are dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, and serotonin. And the stress hormone is cortisol. You don't need to remember this because I'm going to show you a chart. So the dopamine is made in the midbrain. That's why some people get headaches when they get stressed. Endorphins are made in the pituitary gland. It's the base of the brain. People get neck aches. Oxytocin is made in the hypothalamus, also near the base of the brain, the backside. People get stress along this area. Serotonin is made in the gut. Some people have stomach aches when they get stressed out. And cortisol is made in the adrenal glands of the kidneys. And so these are the 5 that we're looking at. There are many more hormones, but these are the dominant happiness hormones and the dominant stress hormone. And so this is where we're focusing tonight. All right, so we're going to switch gears just slightly because this is going to help you when you take your quiz and when you look at the charts later that we do. So you're going to do a 3-minute quick write. Okay, and so the question is, how do you tell when you are producing happiness or stress hormones? So you're going to answer questions on your paper. Okay, number 1, what are the physical internal sensations that you have that let you know that you are feeling safe, grounded, and connected? And number 2, what are the physical internal sensations you have that let you know you are feeling frustration, worry, or concern? So you have 3 minutes to write, and then you're going to have a chance to share in a small group. All right, go ahead and begin just thinking about that and really checking in with yourself, trying to describe each one of those. If you feel safe, if you feel grounded, if you feel connected, what are the internal sensations that you have? Likewise with frustration, worry, and concern. All right, let's go into small groups. We're going to go into groups of 2 or 3 to share the answers for what you just wrote down, and then we'll convene afterwards. All right, so you're going to have 6 minutes to share. Okay, so please go ahead and accept your room, and I'll see you in just a few minutes. Hi, Carol Jean. Well, tell me how you know when you're feeling safe, grounded, connected, and how you're feeling when you're feeling frustration, worry, or concern.
Well, I found that it was easier to say what the frustration, worry, and concern feelings were because they've just seemed much stronger.
That's very common.
Yeah.
But what were they? What were the signals that you get?
So like just everything tenses up. I go faster. I can feel my blood pressure goes up. Since my whole medical episode, I tend to have heart palpitations if I'm stressed. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of the flip side then for the happiness or the
safe, grounded, and connected.
I'm more relaxed and I go slower and
so you know, do you feel like confident and
I feel much more grounded in my place, I would say.
Yeah, I notice the same. I find that I get a certain kind of tension, and that I feel like I'm being pulled in every direction. That's when I am feeling frustration, and my main frustration happens around technology. So like if I want to watch, like I was watching the Major League Baseball, right? And my internet wasn't working and my TV wasn't working. And I was just like, I just got so mad so fast. I thought, God, this is ridiculous. I'm like, Donna, come fix the TV because I was going to throw the remote. And I mean, it was stupid, but some things, I used to be really good at tech stuff, and now I'm turning into my parents, and I can't do it anymore. So I'm like, whatever. So, but I get like a neck ache or a stomach ache or tension. I feel my neck tightening, stuff like that, like you were saying. Let me get everybody back. So raise your hand if you felt that it was easier to talk about frustration, worry, and concern versus safe, grounded, and connected. Okay, let's see. Shelby, raise your hand. Okay. Most people say that it's much easier to talk about that because it's so much more uncomfortable. You notice when you're uncomfortable, but you don't notice when you're comfortable. For example, when you get in your car cars have a negative, I forget what it's called, a negative enforcement, and that's with the seatbelt. It goes beep, 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 beep until you click it, and that's a negative reinforcer. Whereas if it was a positive reinforcer, then when you clicked it, it would say "good driver." Okay, and so it doesn't do that because nobody listens to that. People respond when something is annoying, and then makes them do that. So that's one of those things. So likewise, in our car, what are some other dashboard things that our car lets us know about?
When the tire is low.
Tires are low. Nowadays, cars will tell you, and they'll even show you a picture of which tire is low. Good. What else does our dashboard tell us about?
When you're about to hit someone.
Beep, 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 right? My wife has a car. We call it an over beeper. It's beeping all the time. Okay, so you're too close. What else? There's another one, really important one that's been in everybody's dashboard forever, for the most part.
Left your lights on.
Engine
Left
lights.
your lights on, engine lights, yes. Okay, what about gas? Low on gas, right? So these are all dashboard indicators that are reflecting back to the driver, hey, attention is needed. So these experiences that you just wrote about, you're safe, grounded, and connected, not so much, because that's when things are going well. You're not going to notice when you don't need gas or when your tires are full. But when they're getting low, or there's something coming up that could be dangerous, you're getting an indicator. And that's what your body is doing. Your body is like the car, okay? And your spirit and personality is the driver. And so the personality has to pay attention to what's happening in your body. And your body's telling you, hey, I'm feeling a little bit low in this, or I'm struggling here, or this is what I need. So these are dashboard indicators. And they're very important to notice. And it's actually how you can reverse the effects of long-term trauma. Okay? It's the very first step, because noticing and breathing into, I'm going to show you a breathing technique in a moment. But first you have to notice those internal experiences. And a lot of times those internal experiences in the past were really scary. And so it's uncomfortable to notice those internal experiences. But that is how it starts to be broken down and changed. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. Okay, so I was just saying that how to reverse the effects of trauma and how to stop perpetuating trauma, because we don't realize that we accidentally perpetuate people's trauma by getting upset with them. Someone with trauma starts screaming at you because they're having a reaction to something. And a lot of caregivers, including myself, I've raised several foster kids, and I had a really hard time with our most recent child because of the frequency of her screaming. I would get sucked in to her emotional state, and it was not good for either of us. So this technique is the best technique that I've ever found. It's called 3-6 breathing. And so I invite you right now to put your feet flat on the floor, close your eyes, get into a comfortable position, and breathe in through your nose and pause. And then breathe out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw to the count of 6. So it's in for 3 and out for 6. Now, in addition to this, and if you'll just look up at me for a moment, there's a coffee place near me that's called Dutch Brothers, and they've got this giant thing that is like a wind. It's like this guy that dances like this. It's just this long thing, and it's this wind thing, right? And so I think about that, because the real key to this breath work is you breathe in for 3 and imagine that you're filling up 1, 2, 3, and then you go down 2, 3 to where you started, and then 4, 5, 6 you let go, and you let falling asleep. Completely let go of everything on 4, 5, 6. So let's try that. Breathing in, 2, 3, and pause, and out, 2, 3, and let go. 2, 3, pause. Breathe in, 2, 3 to fullness and pause, and out, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, letting everything go and pausing. And now we're going to breathe into 4, 2, 3, 4, and pause, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see we just did 4. The goal is to get to 10, 20 breathing. In for 10, pause, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Relax. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and pause. That's the goal. You may not be there now because you just learned this skill. But as you go through your days, I do this every time I come to a stoplight. I say, where am I in my breathing? I breathe in, I notice I'm usually at about a 3. And most people are, because we walk around with our lungs half full of air. So when somebody's upset and you say, take a deep breath, you can't actually take a deep breath right then. You can only take a half breath because your body's halfway full of air. So by breathing in for 3 and then breathing out for 6, that last 3 makes a space for you now to breathe into 4. And then you slowly breathe out to 8. And now you have a bigger space to breathe in to 10. And then you breathe out. So you keep exhaling, and the exhale makes the vacuum, it makes the space. And the reason I'm teaching you this is because this is how you turn on the production of happiness hormones. You must have oxygen. And to be having shallow breathing keeps us in cortisol production. So this is directly related to how your brain decides whether it's making happiness hormone or stress hormones. And it's how you can be in a chaotic situation but still be making happiness hormones, because you are taking the time to breathe in and pausing, and that keeps you connected to your logic. So you breathe in, out, etc. Now, the other part of it that's essential that you do for yourself and that you help do for others and help others learn about for themselves is regarding your quick write. Now, when you think about whatever was the most uncomfortable regarding frustration, worry, or concern, okay, on your breath in, I want you to say inside your mind, I acknowledge my internal sensations. So, for example, if you had a stomach ache, you'd say, on the breath in, I acknowledge my tummy ache. Pausing. On the breath out, I accept my tummy ache. So you acknowledge on the breath in and pause, and accept on the way out. Okay. This is the other piece of why this helps to transform previous trauma into a healing experience. Because so many times we have things that happen that we can't explain, that we don't get support for. And here you are acknowledging, I feel this way. And it's the most empowering thing that you can do. And I accept that I feel this way. Likewise, if you have a screaming person near you, you can say, wow, I acknowledge he's really upset right now. I accept he's really upset right now, but I'm not. And that's the difference, because so many caregivers, when that person starts to scream, wah, they're like, oh my God, I'm upset too. And then who's parenting? Nobody. And then the tantruming person becomes the driver of the family, the driver of the situation, instead of the passenger. And the screaming person has to be the passenger. And the way you do that, doing this very thing for yourself. So as soon as that tantrum starts, you breathe in and pause. Now, I'm being loud about my breathing. I'm not suggesting that you be loud, because if somebody's crying in front of you and you go, they don't really like that. It doesn't work well. So you want to, look like you're attending, but you're really attending to those internal sensations, to your dashboard, because that's what's going to help them come back the fastest, is by you staying steady. You don't even have to say much. Are there any comments or questions?
I love all this because one of my big presentations that I provide to my participants is de-escalation in order to recognize what the brain is going through and yourself and your sensations while you are potentially, getting triggered, and then you escalate and then you are in crisis. So just understanding where you're at, because even when you're around other people that are, getting triggered or escalating or going into crisis, it's going to trigger you. And so in order for you to alleviate that, you have to, create that sense of calmness, and to make it simple is just breathe, so I love that. So thank you.
Good. Yes, exactly. When you experience feeling safe, grounded, and connected, you are making happiness hormones. And when you experience feeling frustration, worry, and concern, you are making stress hormones, the point that Shelby just made. Excellent point. So our early experiences in life set in motion deeply held beliefs about being safe or unsafe, loved or unloved, and depend on the interaction between the right and left sides of our brain. So here's our brain. Very simply stated, the right side of the brain holds your emotions and memories, and the left side of your brain holds your logic and planning. They work together to feel, think, plan, and remember. But most importantly, how to interpret the situation at hand. And Suzanne mentioned earlier that perception, okay, that's what we're talking about. The perception or interpretation of what's happening in the situation. Am I safe or am I in danger? And that's what starts the whole ball rolling. Even when an upsetting event happens, the right brain gets agitated and looks to the left side for reassurance. Now, think about it. If you had a difficult series of experiences as a child or even as an adult, your emotions are going to be right under your skin. They're going to be easy to connect with, and those memories are going to pop up. And logically, your logic will say, yeah, that didn't work out so well. We need to run. So the right brain is going to look to the left brain, and unless the left brain gets trained, oh, we're okay, then they're going to jump on board with the emotional and memory side, which is where our fight, flight, or freeze is located. When the upset is too great, the right brain surpasses the left brain's logic and becomes flooded with emotion. This is called a right brain flood. When someone gets triggered and they lose contact with the left side of their brain, that's called a right brain flood. The left side is where your language resides. You know how parents say, use your words. They're crying. They're like, ugh. They can't use their words because they're having an emotional flood. So the kindest thing you can do is to say, wow, my sweetheart is really having a brain flood right now. Or, wow, I'm really upset. I'm having a right brain flood right now. I need time to let the flood go down. And that's the kindest thing that you can do for someone. Your frustration, worry, and concern signals are you stepping into fight or flight. How you take someone else's reaction or whatever they say. If you step into frustration, worry, or concern, that is the first level of a right brain flood in yourself. And being in a right brain flood is the worst place to be for parenting or for a relationship, anything. It's just not a place where we make good decisions because we are not connected to our logic. So you noticing those sensations, those dashboard sensations that we've been working on so far, and saying, wow, I'm getting that feeling in my tummy where I feel upset. I need a little time out. I'm going to breathe. Just a minute. I'm sorry. Pause. We have to pause this conversation. I'm getting upset. I need to attend to myself. Why don't we meet in 10 minutes? You breathe your way back to the green zone, which I call it, and the logic and planning zone. And then you'll be able to talk about it. And that person, if they're your child, and you're in the middle of yelling at them and punishing them, they're going to say, you know what my mom did? She was yelling at me and she was punishing me, and then all of a sudden she stopped and she says, wait a minute, I'm getting upset. I'm going to calm down. Let's talk about this in 10 minutes. We both calmed down, and then we had a talk, and then we hugged and kissed, and then the punishment wasn't what it was, and I fixed the thing. It was amazing. That's the kind of modeling that we want to do for our kids and our loved ones. To say, wow, I'm noticing that I'm going somewhere I don't want to. Because it happens, because we're human. There's no way to avoid it. You just get better at noticing sooner. And at a certain point, you can avoid a lot of the upset that you might have had in the past. But it takes practice and being aware of those internal sensations. So logic and planning is our rest and digest, happiness hormones, and emotions and memories are our fight, flight, or freeze, or stress hormones. And this is how the two work together. Another way to look at this is with this chart. Now, interestingly enough, you see all these red dots. This is part of the fight, flight, or freeze, or the emotions and memory side of the brain. These dots are all the spaces in between your vertebrae where the nerves come out of your spine and innervate your peripheral body so that you can fight, flight, or freeze. It's for your arms and legs. But the rest and digest side, which nobody talks about, is logic and planning. Notice there's a few dots up here and a few down here because it has nothing to do with fighting or flighting or freezing. It just has to do with resting and digesting. And a matter of fact, it starts at your ear and it's called the vagus nerve. And this vagus nerve comes all the way down from your ears, through your throat, and through your whole body cavity. And it's from this place of rest and digest. This is the place where you get your internal sensations. So that rest and digest side is the one that controls the fight, flight, or freeze side. And that's why you have to pay attention to those internal feelings that you have. Now, stress hormones are generated from being in a state of fight or flight when dealing with danger or perceived danger. Like I said earlier, it's our survive mode. But happiness hormones are generated from being in the state of rest and digest. It's our thrive mode, our longevity, digestion, repair, breathing, heart beating, our intended state of being. That's what we use 3-6 breathing for, is to restore ourselves to the left side of zero. Now you'll notice here, I have a number line. I created this, sound like Dr. Evil in Austin Powers. I created the question mark. No, I did not. But I did put this number line on this chart. And for this reason, 0 is neutral, but positive 10 is the highest level of stress a person can experience at any given time. And negative 10 is their deepest rest and digest that you can possibly be, like an earthquake and you wouldn't wake up. Okay. Now the reason that fight or flight is positive 10 and rest and digest is negative 10 is because I look at it like water. 0 is room temperature water. Okay? But the hotter the water gets, it boils and turns into, and that's what happens when our blood boils and we get angry. Whereas when you're cooling off, not being bothered by anything, that's when it goes to negative temperatures, to cooler temperatures. So think about this as cold to hot. Okay? So the question is, where are you when you wake up in the morning in terms of this number line? If you wake up at a -3 or 4, then you have been producing happiness hormones all night, and you're going to wake up refreshed, replenished. Then let's say you got to get up and get the kids out of bed and get them in the car and drive them to school and then get yourself to work or back home where you're going to do your day. Now, we do experience stress. That's part of life. And the alarm goes off and you have to be there by a certain time. These are all stressors. But what I'm saying is I want you to notice when you start to get into the low levels of fight, flight, or freeze, and then breathe your way back to a reasonable -1 or 2 or 3 to do your day. But if you wake up at a +3 or 4, that means that you're not refreshed from sleep. A lot of foster youth in particular, I've worked with foster and adoptive youth primarily, they don't sleep well. They're exhausted already. They're already few levels up into fight or flight. And with the same number of steps for whoever it is, you're only 2 steps away from the highest amount of stress you can deal with in any given moment. And so for a lot of kids who don't sleep well, that's their teacher asking them for their homework, and then they just go bananas. And then before you know it, the first hour of school, they're in the principal's office, and then they're out the door, and you say, what did you do? And say, I don't know, I didn't do anything. They probably didn't. It's just that they were already so deeply into their fight, flight, or freeze side of their brain that they just reacted really intensely. And they are used to it so much that they don't know the difference. They don't know what it feels like to get into rest and digest. Likewise, we've all been given a treasure chest that's full of our internal resources that's meant to last us our whole lifetime. Like how many times your heart will actually beat, how many times your lungs will breathe properly, how long your intestines will work efficiently, how long your cartilage and your tendons, your eyesight, your hearing, all these things are all meant to last a lifetime. And if you are busy being overextended and in making stress hormones all the time, if you're in a 0, 1, 2, 3, you're going to be spending these resources faster. Like you have a savings account, but you're taking out $500 or $1,000 a month, which is supposed to be for your retirement, and it's a slow burn. If you're at a 4+, then you're really burning through those resources. And so we get a lot of people who, a lot of caregivers in particular, who develop illnesses that are equal to people that are much older that get those illnesses. We have a lot of burnout and in general, and we have a lot of people that die young because they are overusing their fight, flight, or freeze methods here and use up their resources. So I don't want any of you to die young. I want you to have a long, healthy life, but that depends on your ability to bring yourself into rest and digest, because in rest and digest you're not spending those at a fast rate at all. So we're about to see a chart in just a moment, and then soon after that we'll take our quiz. In the next page you're going to see a chart that has a green zone, a yellow zone, and a red zone. This comes from the polyvagal theory. It has to do with the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve, again, as I showed you, is the nerve that goes from the ear through the throat to the whole inside of the body. And the green zone, on the next page, it's going to be in thirds. But really, we're talking about 0 to the -10 is all green zone. 0 to 5 is fight or flight. And 6 to 10 is freeze. Okay. I just said that. All right. So this is a chart that's also equally important. Here's where 0 would be. And you see now, at the beginning of class tonight, we did a quick write on frustration, worry, and concern. Frustration, worry, and concern are step 1 into fight, flight, or freeze, with 10 being up here with disassociation and shame. Now, if you or your loved one, when someone confronts you with something, if you have a son or daughter that back talks all the time to you, well, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, then they're a fighter. If you have someone that retreats and doesn't want to have a confrontation, you've got a flighter. Okay, so, frustration is in the fight side, and worry and concern are in the flight side. And so we're all, sometimes people are both, but usually people have a dominant response to stress. So you can see frustration, worry, and concern is step 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you know that 5 is actually in the red zone. So I would say that on any given day, I don't want to go higher than frustration, worry, and concern, because it's uncomfortable and it leads me to make bad decisions. So that's why I focused with you on your own frustration, worry, and concern, so that you can say, wow, there's a flag waving at me and I need to breathe and bring myself back into the green zone, because the green zone is all about safety. That's the driving force. And when you feel safe, you're calm, you're settled, you're grounded, you're curious, compassionate, mindful, Okay, like, wow, oh my gosh, honey, you're so upset, is different than when you're frustrated. What's wrong? Why are you screaming? Two different things. And it depends on you and where you are. And so the more you practice breathing the way I taught you, that extension of, letting completely go, that is what puts you in this zone and gives you the ability to deal with whatever is happening around you. This is a chart I recommend that you have on your fridge, because you can see where someone is at any given time and say, wow, they're in fight right now. Poor thing. That's so uncomfortable. I've been there. Yuck. I'll be right here waiting for you. Or do you want me to sit with you? No? Okay. Well, when you're ready, let's talk. Instead of, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that again, blah, blah, blah. And then it just pushes the person farther up into the red zone. And so that's not good for anybody.
I was gonna. I know that me putting fawn in there, which is actually a new one for me, in this whole de-escalation process. So I know it's not here, but I would love. I know that you got to move quickly, but I would love to see where that would fall on this scale.
Oh my God, fawn! I have this complex PTSD book. This is the other book that I draw from, and in another training that I have, where I have a chart that includes fawn. And fawn is, gosh, it's actually part of fighting. Okay, it's part of fighting. Fawning is when you're like, you do anything to help somebody. Oh, it's okay, I'll do whatever you want. It's a way. I'm explaining for everyone else. It's a way of not losing what you think you're about to lose. It's definitely not a flight, and it's not freeze. So it's in the fawn. It's in the fawn area, and it's a great question. I don't have time to go into it more, but
no, that's fine. No, I just
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
no,
I was
I'm-
just curious. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I just want to ask real quick, and then we can move on. And then
no, it's a
if I
great question. It's a great question. Yeah, good for you. All righty. So let me ask you, why do babies cry? There's three main reasons. Someone shout out one reason.
Hungry.
Hungry. That's right. That's one of the reasons. The main reasons. What's another main reason that babies
Survive.
They're what?
To survive.
To survive? Yeah, I'm talking like that's true, but I'm talking like what's something like hungry, something like that. Like there's two more things that it's all for surviving. You're right, but I mean a little more specific.
To remedy discomfort.
Okay, that's the fourth thing. You have any babies?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, good for you for guessing. Okay, so there's hungry. I'll give you, Rachel, I'll give you a clue.
To sleep.
Yep, they're tired. Good. And one more. What do babies need help with they can't do for themselves?
They're wet.
Yes, they need a diaper change. So wet or dirty, hungry or tired. Those are the three main reasons, plus pain and everything else. But the three bottom line are those. So do we teach babies to cry? No, we do not teach babies to cry. In fact, what is the first sound we listen for when a baby is born? Their cry. And thumbs up or down, is it a good thing or bad thing if a baby doesn't cry when they're born? Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Why? Because crying is our innate self-care mechanism. Okay, it is our innate self-care mechanism. Now, what signals the baby to let them know that they're hungry? It's vagus nerve. Okay, so their stress hormone, they don't have the words, but they have a sensation that's uncomfortable, and so they cry. And then we go, oh, the dashboard on that baby is telling me they need one of those three things. So you pick them up and you sniff them. That's not it. Are you tired? No, you just woke up. You must be hungry. And after a while, you learn the different signals of your child. Okay, but those three are the main things. And then we do this funny thing to kids. At first, we say, oh, thank goodness he cried when he was born. Then we say, oh, my baby was so good, he didn't cry at all last night. I'm not sure that's so good. And they get a little older and we say, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And so we have a really weird relationship with negative feelings, with crying and discomfort. And we try to get people, stop, and to the point of harming people to tell them to stop crying. Where what I'm saying to you is, well, you're going to have to sit with your discomfort. That's how you get through trauma. That's how you can break the cycle of your own trauma, is to say, I notice I'm really scared right now, and what's the evidence? Looking around, I am not in danger. Something is bringing this up for me, and I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to pat myself on the chest. This is one of our hormones, oxytocin. It gets released when you have safe, wanted touch. Now, your brain doesn't know the difference if it's you patting your chest or someone else. You can pat yourself on the chest and say, "Aw, this is really uncomfortable." And that sound of "aw" releases oxytocin, and so does the patting of your own chest. And that's what I do when I get upset. I go, "Oh, this feels terrible. I am so upset right now." And then when I say that out loud, it makes me laugh because I sound so silly. But it absolutely releases oxytocin. That's one of our hormones. Now here we have 3 babies, number 1, 2, and 3. We're going to use a thermostat to represent them. The first baby cries, "Wah, wah, oh, good, you're here. I'm okay." Crying is a great tool. So you learn when your caregiver comes and attends to you that crying is a good thing. Baby number 2 cries, "Wah, wah, are you there? I'm crying, wah." And that baby sometimes gets cared for and sometimes doesn't. And the third baby cries and cries and cries. I'm not okay. And nothing happens, or they get abused. And that person learns, wow, this crying thing is useless. Why should I bother paying attention to my internal sensations? And that's when we're dealing with people that have endured trauma. That's where they are for the most part. They're not going to pay attention because it didn't help or it got them hurt. This is a tough thing to come in and try to help someone to undo that, because you have to stay in the green zone and encourage them to join you in the green zone. And slowly, little by little, as Shelby was saying, is to notice when you start to escalate and then to de-escalate. And so here they're learning not to take care of themselves, because over time, baby number 1 says, I have confidence that my needs will be met. I rarely get stressed. Okay? I'm going to be making happiness hormones even when something is stressful, because I learned from a very early on that I have faith in myself. I have faith in people around me. I know that it's going to work out. And that's when the right side of the brain goes, I don't know about this. And the left side, the logic goes, oh yeah, we've got this. It's going to work out. Remember, all our whole lives, it's fine. So don't worry about it. And that person handles the stress just fine. Whereas baby number 3, okay, it's like, I'm alone in life. I'm stressed frequently. If that person had frequent abuse or lack of food or lack of changing their diaper or whatever it was, that consistency over time, they're going to have this idea that I have to figure everything out on my own. And when I go to my logic says, yeah, you're on your own, kid. And so that raises the stress level in that person. Now, you don't have to be in foster care to have this happen. This happens to a lot of people, like a huge percentage of our population. And so what the other part of it is that this white zone, this is our capacity for stress. So you see, baby number 1 has the biggest capacity for stress, and baby number 3 has the most diminished capacity for stress, because they're already, like I showed you on the number line, they're already at 5, 6, 7, and something happens and it pops them up to 10. Whereas somebody who's starting on the negative side has that whole range to go and even get into level 1 or 2 or 3 and go, wow, this is stressful, and breathe themselves back. And that's why I'm showing you this, because to see the capacity, and you probably have people in your lives, including yourself, that you notice some people get really reactive in certain situations. they are having a right brain flood and are feeling something of the fact that they are alone, having to figure something out that they can't. And it's making them produce stress hormone in a moment that they could really use happiness hormone instead. All right, so let's take our quiz now. Let me get out of this and get you the quiz. Hold on 1 second. Are there any comments or questions right now?
No, thank you so much. It's kind of funny you sharing that, because even though you're talking about infants and I'm talking about people that are, experiencing this, it's very similar. Especially with like trauma, like, they could be in their, 20s, 30s, but the fact that they haven't recognized or identified what they have been going through, they're still in kind of that infantile stage. And
Absolutely.
so me looking at your research, which I've been like, I need to see Nick Lawrence's seminar. Yeah. I need to see this, like, because I want to help, explain, hey, this is where you're at. This is what you've gone through. Because a lot of them have gone through generational trauma or generational poverty. And so, in order to alleviate that, and I tell them, like, hey, understanding is power. To understand where you're at and like what's going through, you acknowledging that and then pushing through it, it's going to make you more powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, you're right. And these things is exactly, I kind of rushed through one of the slides, but it's exactly that. These things that happen to us as children, and I'm not saying that everybody's different, right? Like my wife and her brother are exactly 1 year apart, and they pretty much grew up like twins, and they both had very different experiences of their early childhood. We also have our personality that takes things a certain way and makes our own decisions about life. But nevertheless, whatever decisions we make at an early age, they stay with us until we identify them and say, oh, I think I need to have a different decision. I need to think differently about my life and about my ability and so forth. So you're right on. You can be any age. If you haven't examined those early decisions, then they're still working on you and are the driver of your life. All right, so now we are going to take a quiz, okay? And this is the happiness hormone quiz that I designed. All right, so you're going to make yourself a chart. There's 5 sections. Okay, and you're going to put dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, and cortisol. All right, so you want to have a chart that looks like this. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready.
Does the artwork need to be the same?
Does the artwork need to be? Well, no.
I'm sorry. That's
joking. Okay. That's fine. As long as it's close, something like this. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quiz, okay, that I designed. I studied, I was teaching a workshop on the 5 languages of love and how that can help with trauma recovery from trauma. And I was studying oxytocin, and I realized, wow, it's the hug hormone. And then I thought, oh, gosh, one of the languages of love is physical touch. And I thought, wow, there's a correlation there. So then I thought maybe each one of the languages of love have a correlated hormone with it. And so I did all this research, and I found that they kind of do. And I wouldn't say it's a scientific study, but 95% of the time, the results of both the hormone quiz and the love language quiz, they absolutely correlate. So it's very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to give you a quiz. It was based on what thousands of people have reported when they are low in happiness hormones and high in stress hormone. So if you're low in happiness hormone, you're feeling down and you're stressed out, okay? Where we want to be is high in happiness hormone and low in stress hormone. So the more you answer yes, the more you're agreeing with people who are low in happiness hormones and high in stress hormones. So the first question is in the dopamine category, and there's like 5 or 6 questions that are worth 3 points, and then several questions that are worth 2 points. So I'm going to say, for example, dopamine. For 3 points, do you often feel depressed? And if you say yes, then you put a 3 in the dopamine. Okay, this is just a practice right now. Now, when I say, do you often feel depressed? What I mean is, when you ask yourself that question, do you get a yes or a maybe? It doesn't necessarily mean your entire life. It just means right now in this moment. When COVID hit, everybody's scores went crazy because they were all so stressed out. So you're taking an inventory for right now in this moment. So do you often feel depressed? If you get a yes or a maybe, you write a 3. If you don't get a yes or a maybe, then you write a 0. So you're going to have an answer for each question. They'll either be 0s or 3s or 2s, depending on what number I tell you. So the first question is for dopamine. Do you often feel depressed? And now you, for 3 points, and you either write down a 3 for yes or maybe, or a 0 for no. You put it in your first column. Question number 2, it's just a gut response. Question number 2, do you often feel bored? For 3 points. Next question, are you a thrill seeker or a risk taker? 3 points. Question number 4, are you easily chilled or have cold hands or feet? 3 points. Question number 5, do you feel the need to get more alert by consuming a lot of coffee or other uppers like sugar, diet soda, or other substances? 3 points. Next question, 2 points. Do you tend to put on weight easily?
Are we back to dopamine now?
We're still in dopamine. The whole time has been dopamine.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
This whole section is dopamine.
Oh,
Were you going from category to category? All
sorry.
right, just move them all over to dopamine. I'm sorry if I was unclear. These are all the dopamine questions.
Okay, got it.
Next question, all in dopamine. 2 points. Are you low on physical or mental energy? Next question. 2 points. Do you feel tired frequently even if you slept well? Next question. 2 points. Do you have to push yourself to exercise? Next question. Do you notice an inability to feel pleasure? 2 points. Next question. Is your drive or enthusiasm for life on the low side? 2 points. And now last question for dopamine. 2 points. Do you have difficulty focusing or concentrating? So for example, I just made a short list. It's not as many questions as you have. That's the end of dopamine. Now you add up your score and you put your score right down here. So this one is a 12, but it isn't realistic because I didn't answer all the questions. All right, now we're on the endorphins category. All endorphins. Question number 1. Do you cry easily? 3 points. Question number 2. Do you feel you are overly sensitive compared to others? 3 points. Next question. Do you experience frequent emotional pain? 3 points. Next question. Are old emotional injuries stimulated easily? 3 points. Next question. Do you have frequent physical pain that is not from a specific injury? 3 points. Next question. Do you frequently crave mood-altering substances like alcohol or drugs? 3 points. Next question. 2 points. Have you lost interest in sex or do you crave it frequently? Next question. Do you struggle with anxiety? 2 points. Next question. Have you had long-term stress? 2 points. Next question. Have you lost experiencing pleasure from things you once enjoyed very much? 2 points. Next question. Do you feel dread or a sense of why bother frequently? 2 points. And last question. Do you engage in risky behaviors? 2 points. Add up your endorphins. And these are just examples. These aren't actual real scores on mine because I didn't answer all the questions along the way. Now we're on to oxytocin. Question number 1 for oxytocin. 3 points. Do you feel stressed frequently? Next question. Do you feel tired frequently even when you slept well? 3 points. Next question. Do you feel disconnected from your relationships? 3 points. Next question. Do you feel disconnected from yourself? 3 points. Next question. Do you prefer to stay home than socialize? 3 points. Next question. Do you walk by people you know and don't say hi because you don't want to interact? 3 points. Next question. Are you missing the warmth of love and connection? 2 points. Next question. Do you notice you haven't laughed in a while? 2 points. Next question. Do you notice you have lost your playfulness? 2 points. Next question. Do you hold on to anger? 2 points. Next question. Do you crave alcohol and or drugs every afternoon or evening? 2 points. Last question. Do you feel like you are all gived out? 2 points. Go ahead and add up your score. Serotonin. Question number 1. Do you have a tendency to be negative? 3 points. Next question. Do you have dark, pessimistic thoughts? 3 points. Next question. Are you often worried or anxious? 3 points. Next question. Do you have feelings of low self-esteem? 3 points. Next question. Do you easily feel self-critical? 3 points. Next question. Do you often feel guilty? 3 points. Next question. Do you use easy-to-win computer games to relax? 2 points. Next question. Are you a work addict? 2 points. Next question. Are you apt to be irritable, edgy, or angry? 2 points. Next question. Are you a night owl finding it difficult to sleep? 2 points. Next question. Do you wake up in the night, have restless sleep, or wake up too early in the morning? 2 points. And last question. Do you routinely crave sweet or starchy snacks in the afternoon or evenings? 2 points. So go ahead and add up your score. All right, and now the last section, these are all worth 1 point. So it's a yes or no. I mean, yes or maybe is a 1. Okay, question 1. Do you gain weight mostly around your midsection or upper back? 1 point. Next question. Do you gain weight with a rounding of your face? 1 point. Do you have frequent acne? 1 point. They're all worth 1 point. Next question. Is your skin thinning unrelated to aging? Next question. Do you bruise easily? Next question. Do you have a flushed face easily? Next question. Are you slow to heal? Next question. Do you have severe fatigue? Next question. Do you have purple stretch marks? Next question. Are you irritable? Next question. Do you have difficulty concentrating? Next question. Do you have high blood pressure? Next question. Do you suffer from frequent headaches? Next question. Do you get burned out easily? Next question. Do you still feel tired after a night's sleep? And finally, do you feel overextended easily? Now you go and you add up your scores. All right. Now, somewhere on your page, I should have put this a little over to the side. We're going to make another chart. There's going to be a chart with 4 quadrants, and we need to have 20 hash marks evenly set apart on each one of the lines. Okay, so 20, so it's 40 total from top to bottom. And there'll be 20 this way, but you want to have them fairly evenly spread out. So there's 20 on each quadrant. And so I've moved these because I have the technology to move those over, but you see I'm now labeling each quadrant. So you can label your quadrants as well. So you really do need your high school algebra after all.
We have 5 hormones, but just 4 quadrants.
That's right. The 5th one will be applied after we're done with this
Okay.
this first part. Very good noticing. Is there anybody that would like me to plot their chart for them? If you want to.
Sure. Yes.
You want to? Okay. So Shelby, what was your dopamine score?
10.
10? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to a highlighter. So I'm going to start now. This is very important, everybody. You start at 0. 0 is where the X and Y axis meet. And I'm going to go up 10 spaces and all the way across. Okay? And so whatever your score was, you start at 0 and you go up the number that you got and all the way across. See how I
So
filled that in?
then 10 down as well?
Nope, just here. You start
Oh,
at
and
0,
then-
you go up 10 and over 10.
Okay.
Just like I did here. The endorphins is in the bottom quadrant, so we're not doing
Okay.
that yet. But you start at 0, that's in the middle. 0 is in the middle. And you go up 10 and over 10 and fill in the whole thing. And that's Shelby's dopamine score. If you got 20, then you would be all the way, the whole thing would be filled in. If you got 23, then yours is beyond what we made for tonight. It doesn't matter. It's just feedback. And this is just a way of us getting something on a page. Okay. If yours was 6, then you would have gone up 6 and all the way over.
Okay.
You'd have a smaller box. That was, I'm telling for everybody, Shelby, not just for you.
Oh, no. Perfect. Okay.
All right, so Shelby's dopamine was 10, and I'm going to write that. What was your endorphin score?
14.
Okay, so we'll go to highlighter. We'll go to a different color. This is why I wanted you guys to have, colors. Okay, so she got 14, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so it's slightly larger than her dopamine score. Doing this for yourself in your own score. Very good. And now your oxytocin score, Shelby?
It's 14.
14. Okay, so we know the purple was 10, so this is going to go up higher. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it was even with your endorphin score. Okay, and Shelby, what was your serotonin score?
16.
16. Okay, so this one is your highest. You should all have something that looks similar to this, but with your own scores. So if you had scores of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, your color is going to be very small on your page. The higher the number, the more color that's on the page. Okay. Now, right now, we're looking at, and we're taking Shelby's example, and thank you so much for sharing your scores, okay? Because most people that I give this workshop to have very similar scores to you, Shelby. They have a lot of color on the page. Now, let me remind you that the quiz you took was based on symptoms that thousands and thousands of people reported when they were low in happiness hormone and high in stress hormone. Now, we haven't put the stress hormone on here yet, but we're going to talk about this first. So the more color you have on the page, the higher your score, the more you need that hormone. Okay, this is a deficit quiz. If you had answered no to every question, you'd have a blank page. And that would mean that you are full of happiness hormones. This is showing, and like I said, Shelby, you and 95% of the people that take this quiz are showing that you really need happiness hormones, that you're deficit in happiness hormones, and your 16 is your highest score. Now, some people end up with 23, 24 points, and they're off the page, okay? Yours is still within this page, but on or off the page doesn't matter. What matters is that this is your dashboard talking to you, okay? For each one of you, this is your dashboard telling you, I really need some happiness hormones, okay? So the higher your score, the more deficit you are in the hormone. So 10 is your lowest. So dopamine is your quote unquote best score, but there are no such things as best or worst. Now let's put the cortisol on here. What was your cortisol score?
It is 8.
Okay. So she had an 8. So this is really different. Now for this one, there are 1 points because what I'm going to do, and you're going to do this as well, is that the cortisol goes on top. So in each box now, it's very different. Watch closely. I'm going to go up 8 and over 8. It doesn't go all the way across. I'm going to go down 8 and over 8. It's an 8 by 8 box in each quadrant. See? 8. Up 8 and over 8 in each quadrant. If you had a 2, then you would go up 2 and over 2 in each quadrant. You'd have a little tiny square at the center of your page. If you had a 10, it would be bigger than this one. 10 would go 10 by 10 in each quadrant. Now what this does is it shows you, and for Shelby with your score, you see that you have this big black box on your page. That's showing that your production of stress hormone is greatly impacting your production of happiness hormone. Do you see that? That big black box is going beep, beep, beep. We're making stress hormone a priority, and it's blocking your ability to make your happiness hormone. So even though your score is 8, okay, and the serotonin was 16, you still have a deficit. The highest deficit is in serotonin. But for you, the first thing to do is to remedy your stress. Because as that stress number shrinks and gets smaller and smaller, you will be naturally producing more of your happiness hormones. Okay, so you should each have all your scores right now, and you can see if you have small black box and you have big color, that means that your stress isn't impacting your happiness hormone production. But it also means that things that you're doing in your life are not promoting happiness hormone production. So there's 2 parts. One is the promotion of, and that's when you feel safe, grounded, and connected, otherwise known as joy. When you're feeling joy, boom, 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 you're going to be making all kinds of happiness hormones. And so that's really what to focus on is, well, what brings me joy? And if you have high scores, then joy in these different categories is going to be essential. So I'm going to take us off of this screen, and I'm going to share with you now the chart that I designed that shows you what to do with your scores. Are there any comments or questions right now about your score?
Wait, so sorry. So in correlation of all things, it's basically just like pertaining to the things that are relating to increase, like, okay, so oxytocin, right? Obviously, like that was pretty high, and then serotonin, that was high. So it's just like going back to the drawing board and being like, hey, this is what I need to do in order to get this naturally. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm going to show you a chart now that
Okay.
tells you what to do with this score. I went to a ton of trauma and the brain workshops, and they all said, trauma is bad for your brain. Thanks so much for coming. Bye. And I was like, what are you talking about? What? Yeah, I'm okay. Thanks for
Bye.
nothing. Right. So I'm like, okay, I got to do something that's going to help people.
I love that. Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome. So I'm going to show you this. All right.
I guess, okay, sorry. I'm going to have another question. The correlation of the box in the dark in the middle, that's like where you're supposed to focus on.
So you're going to focus on all of them. But what I'm saying is we generally go with the largest score first. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So your largest score is serotonin. But when you look at this example that I made for you of yours, you see how big that black box is. It covers a lot of ground on on your happiness hormone production. So I would say that if I were you, I would attack stress first, and I would try to bring your stress level down. That way you're not making as much cortisol, because that cortisol, that's what that black is. It's like a black goo covering up your ability to make happiness hormones. And I think the reduction of cortisol is going to naturally increase the production of happiness hormones. Okay. So, but even for some people, they could have a high set of scores of color and a very small black box. And what that means is that their stress isn't causing them. They don't have a high stress life, but they're still not producing happiness hormones. And that would be related to having things in their life every day that are not bringing them joy. So it's a combination of finding joy in all kinds of ways, and in looking at your scores and generally taking the highest one first, unless you have a fairly impactful cortisol. See, if you had like 20s and 25s, Shelby, then your eight would be a lot smaller. But since you had 14, 16, the 8 is like halfway. It's half as big as your biggest score. So it's having a big impact on you. All right, let's go to this chart. Yeah, you're welcome. I have a simple form of my chart, and then I have the expanded form, and I'm going to show you both. Okay, so here's the hormone chart, and it's the first column says the hormone itself, what it does, how it works, how to do it, health problems without it, and then the language of love. And we're using the example of a burrito. So dopamine, what it does is it creates satisfaction from achievement. It motivates and it regulates your body. Okay, how it works. You get pleasure from setting and achieving goals. This is what dopamine does for you. I'm going to clean the kitchen. I cleaned it. Yay. I'm going to get an A on my test. I got an A. Yay. I'm going to wash my car. Yay. I'm going to do something nice for my sweetheart. I do the nice thing and I get dopamine. How to do it? Eat well. Meaningful actions. Light, frequent exercise. Sleep well. Listen to music. So if dopamine was your highest score, then you want to focus on this section right here of eating well, having meaningful actions, light, frequent exercise, getting good sleep, and listening to music. And these are the health problems. If you have a deficit in dopamine, you can get addiction, depression, poor concentration, sleepiness, etc. And I associate this with acts of service. Why? Because it's an action, a satisfaction from achievement. I'm going to make you a burrito, and then the person receives a gift, and I get dopamine because I just set a goal and I met it. Okay? And that's how that one works. The next one is endorphins. What it does, it blocks pain and reduces stress. How it works, it reduces anxiety and reverses depression in the brain. How to do it? Sniff lavender or vanilla. It should say in the next chart, it says intense group exercise. Like a aerobics class or something or a fitness class where you're doing it in a group. Okay. Laughter. Okay, you have to laugh. Eat chocolate. Listen to music. I see listen to music is in 2 of them. And you notice dopamine is light, frequent exercise, but endorphins is intense group exercise. And the thing about endorphins is it simulates fight or flight. Like if you play basketball, you're trying to get the ball, they run into you, you're like fighting, you're trying to win. That's simulating stress, but you're aware of it and you're enjoying it. And it helps you be ready for other kinds of stress. It's like a practice. Health problems without it, crying easily, hypersensitive, craving comfort food and drugs. That's receiving gifts. Thank you for making me a burrito. Receiving a gift doesn't have to mean a fancy, expensive thing. It could mean a flower picked, a little daisy on the grass. I thought of you, or a little meme. It's just people that have high score in endorphins are often givers, but not so good at receiving. Okay, they're in the care industry and are taking care of others, and a lot of times people get used to you giving and don't think, well, you need to receive a gift too. So it's really important to receive as well. The next one is cortisol. Okay, that's the stress response, capacity for stress. It's your fight, flight, or freeze response. How to do it, how to reverse it: eat well, sleep well, do artwork, laugh with loved ones, spend time in nature, listen to music. So you see, music is in all 3 of them so far. Eating well is in 2 of them, but it really is for all of them. These are the basics of life. If you have too much cortisol, depression, weakness, heart problems, back pain, this is just a little snippet of each of these. And this language of love is time spent together. The number 1 language in the world is time spent together. And let's eat this burrito together. So interestingly enough, time spent together is the #1 language of the world, and it's the stress hormone. It's what we produce if we don't get enough time spent together, and it's quality time, not like Suzanne says, I'm Suzanne's dad, and she says, Dad, can I tell you about my day? And I say, yeah, go ahead, honey. And she starts talking, and I go like this. I'm listening. Okay, that's not time spent together. Time spent together is agreed upon. It could be a date at Costco. It could be doing the laundry. It could be watching TV. It could be doing whatever, as long as you agree that that's what it is that you need to do. This time spent together, quality time, is how you reduce cortisol. Oxytocin is a stress response. It soothes and restores and self-regulation. That's like that baby number 3 had no oxytocin, was crying and upset all the time. That's why I told you, if you pat your chest and say "aw" to yourself, this really hurts right now, your body doesn't know that that isn't somebody else's hand. Okay, you are soothing and restoring self-regulation. And Shelby's talking about her crew that she works with, a lot of dysregulation happening and how to come back home to self. It starts right there. 10 is a specific wanted touch with a safe, special person. 10 seconds of touch. It could also be with a pet. It can even be a stuffed animal. It can be even on yourself if you're conscientious about it. Caring for pets, yoga, socializing. And without it, addiction, aggression, social anxiety, etc. Physical touch. Let's cuddle and I'll wrap you in my blanket like a burrito. And then finally, serotonin. It's a happiness booster. It's your emotional processor. If you had a high serotonin score, you might have difficulty processing your emotions. And that's why you need more of it, so that you don't get strung out in an argument that you don't really want to be in. It's your emotional processor that isn't working. So you definitely need that. It regulates your mood and digestion. This is positive thinking, affirmations, reading something inspirational, mindfulness, eating well, sunlight, eating foods with tryptophan like turkey. Without it, depression, anxiety, etc. Words of affirmation are, you make delicious burritos. Okay, if we look at your scores, I'm going to go to actually the next chart, which if you filled out my attendance form, then I'll be able to email this to you. And this is the actual chart. It has a lot more information on it. Just want to show you that there's a green star here, dopamine, and that has another green star with serotonin. And serotonin and dopamine are like sisters, and they're like on a seesaw, and they try to balance each other out. So a lot of times, like my wife, for example, her scores are always high dopamine, high serotonin. I mean, her scores are high. She's deficit of those. And mine are always endorphins, oxytocin. Okay, I don't have a high cortisol score anymore, but I'm the one who is overly sensitive, and I feel lonely easily. And she's the one who's a stressed mess and a dark cloud. So it's really interesting if you and your partner or friends take this quiz, then you can really see, wow, when you get stressed out, you feel like you're in a dark cloud. Well, I don't feel that way. I just feel lonely. So when I feel down, I need a hug. Okay. And when my wife feels down, she needs a little bit of space. And so we're opposite, right? So now I know that when she's down, I breathe and I say, oh, honey, I used to say, do you need a hug? And she'd say no, and I'd feel rejected. But actually, now I breathe and I go, I acknowledge she's really upset right now. I accept she's really upset right now, like the 3-6 breathing. And then I say, do you need some space? And she says, yeah, thanks. And now when I'm upset, she breathes and she says, do you need a hug? And I say, yeah, because she can give me the hug because she's grounded in herself and she knows that's what I need. So it helps you help the other person. And then you see this red arrow. These two, cortisol and oxytocin, are brothers, and they also try to balance each other out. And you notice, who cares in loneliness? If you're stressed out, you're like, nobody cares about me. That makes you feel lonely. So they all work together. I will send you this chart. Who has a question about their scores and how it relates to this chart. I'm going to go back a slide so you can see it better. Somebody tell me, Suzanne, tell me your two highest scores.
My serotonin was 16 and my oxytocin was 10.
Okay. So you're 16 and 10. Very good. And what was your cortisol?
4.
4. Okay, so you had a little black box in the middle of yours. So that says to me that your daily life is not high stress. You might have a little stress here and there, but it's not impacting your happiness hormones. And so serotonin is your highest. So you need words of affirmation. And that means that you need to be told, you need the words that say, I appreciate you, or good job, or whatever it is that you need to hear. And like, if you really need to hear, I am so impressed, and I say, hey, nice job. It's not the same. Okay. This is like the water for a rose. Okay. If you say, well, I gave you orange juice, Rose, the rose will be like, I can't use orange juice. I just need water, right? So for you, words of affirmation are key. And since that was your highest score, this is the one you should start with. Some positive thinking, some mindfulness. The mindfulness gets you out of the right brain and into the left brain. And to absolutely train your people to say, this is what I want to hear when you think I've done a good job. And then when they say it, say, thank you so much. You just watered this beautiful rose right here. Okay. So words of affirmation. And then oxytocin was your next one, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And so likewise, after you attend to words of affirmation, then you definitely need some physical touch.
Okay.
Just something gentle, sweet, whatever it is that sounds good to you. Okay. Those two together are really going to impact your ability to produce those hormones, which will make your whole experience much happier, because you'll be flourishing in your happiness hormones. I recommend this for everybody. Start with your highest score, and attend to that. And when you feel like you've got that pretty good, go to your next highest score. Who else would like me to look at their scores with them?
I'll do mine.
Okay, Carol Jean, what was your highest?
I was off the charts. My dopamine was 29.
Okay, dopamine. And what was your next highest?
Serotonin 21, but oxytocin was 20. So
Okay, good. So this is just really good feedback for you. There's lots and lots of people who take this quiz who are like, oh my gosh, I'm off the chart on all of them. And so it's just feedback for you. So dopamine, okay, dopamine. Now I know you pretty well. And so I would say that you are naturally a giver, and you do a lot of acts of service. And so a lot of people that do acts of service, they get super gratification from giving and taking care of other people. But it doesn't mean that they don't need it as well. We all need to receive acts of service as well. So anybody that has high score on dopamine, I say, well, you know what? You have to make smaller goals, because a lot of times people with dopamine have a lot on their plate. They're doing a lot for a lot of people, and there's big goals. And your brain, if you say I'm gonna run 100 miles and you only ran 10, you're not gonna get the dopamine, because you didn't meet the goal. Now, if I ran 10 miles, I'd be ecstatic. Okay. So it's looking at what you have on your plate, and then saying, what are smaller increments that I can be pleased about as I do these things, so that I get the release of dopamine. I'm still heading toward the goal. I still have the big goal, but I'm going to celebrate. And here's the key word. I'm going to celebrate the small goals, the small achievements, because that will release dopamine. And you, because you had such a high score, you want to get your brain to start releasing dopamine every 20 minutes, if possible, so that you have this nice steady flow of dopamine. And then your next one was serotonin, you said?
yes.
Okay. So like Suzanne, a lot of times people that are givers and acts of service also really need to have words of affirmation. So that would be you telling your family, these are the words I really need to hear. These specific words when you're grateful for something that I've done. This is how I want to hear it. I want to hear you say, I appreciate you so much, sweetheart or mom or friend, right? Whatever those words are, that's going to be like water on a rose that is whose soil is dry. And so you need to be watered and you need to be cared for. Also, and people that have acts of service that are very high, I say, sometimes we get givers are doers. And so we just handle everything. And so to say, I need help with this, I'm actually not going to do these things. I need one of you to take this off my plate, and I need another one to take this off my plate. And you try to find ways that you can take things off your plate because it's too many goals and not enough of you to go around. And you're not alone. There's many, many people, especially in the foster care world, who are giving and giving and giving, and then there's nothing coming back. And people get used to givers. They get used to it, and they're like, well, aren't you going to give me some more? Because you always give me more. It's like, no, I'm not. I actually need to receive. What was your endorphin score, Carol Jean?
16.
Okay, so it was a lower score, still a higher score, but a lower score than the other ones. Okay, and that's receiving gifts. And I think that's where your serotonin, see, dopamine and serotonin are sisters, and so they're trying to help each other out. So you're going to start with acts of service, smaller goals, and then add on words of affirmation, and let that sink into you, and then go to the next one as you continue. Okay, so now we've got a few minutes, but I don't mind if we go a minute or two over. I know if you need to leave, that's fine, but it's nice to have a chance to have a checkout. And so it's just a chance for you to say one or two things that you got from the evening so that others can hear it. And even if someone says exactly what you were going to say, just say it again if that's true for you. And then we didn't get to do the second half of it. It's just I was being silly thinking I could do two things in 2 hours, and I couldn't. But there will be another. I'll be offering that other workshop at another time, and I'll invite you guys to come take it, because what it does is it looks at your everyday life and what you're doing, and whether you use some of the information you got tonight and some other information that we will develop together, and you get to see whether what you're doing is creating your happiness hormones or stress hormones. And then it gives you a chance to reflect and say, well, I'm going to change how I do that because I want to enjoy that more, or I didn't realize that was really making stress hormones for me when I thought it was something that I was really important, things like that. Anyway, let me call on you in the order that you are on my screen, and then you have a chance to just say what your takeaways are from tonight. That'll be Shelby, and then Rachel, and then Ruth Ann.
Okay, Nick, I definitely want to be on some sort of newsletter, because aside from me just like figuring out when you're having another seminar, I want to know exactly when, because I've been so intrigued by you for the past year about everything that you've done with all of your research and studies. And I want to learn more from you, because you're very intelligent. You're very versed on what you are able to deliver. I want to know. I'm obviously in Texas too. It's like a 2-hour difference, but I was like, I want to know. I want to be a part of this, because I feel like everything that you are able to offer and deliver is going to be completely crucial to the people that I'm serving. Because they are in this like mind state. It's kind of, it is a little infantile, but breaking it down to where it makes sense, like you do, like, and I can do that to them, like it's gonna make a world of a difference. And so again, I feel completely blessed to be. Actually, I thought it was going to be a huge group, and I didn't know I was actually going to get to talk to you. I feel very blessed and honored to actually talk to you today.
Oh my God, you're so adorable.
Oh my gosh! Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to talk to freaking Nick Lawrence. I've been like, Wow.
I'm gonna tell my wife you said that. Okay, I'm
No,
gonna say,
I
you know
like that.
what,
Like, you have
Shelby
no-
said this.
No, you have no idea. I've
Oh
been
my
talking
God.
about you for a long time, and I
my
was like,
God.
this guy, like
my God.
and
Okay.
anyways,
All right. Thank you. We'll talk. Okay. We'll
but
talk.
yes, but
I want
okay.
to support you in what you're doing. That's
Oh,
thank you so much. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm
yes,
touched.
thank you.
Raythel, go ahead. What are your takeaways?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I work with a lot of the traumatized populations, lots of foster youth, lots of chronically homeless folks. And from a relationships perspective, psychodynamically, typically with some CBT and humanistic approaches. And so I've always really looked for visuals to help people because as a student, all I read is very heady material. It's very intellectualizing. And it's very easy to get caught up in the intellect part of it all. And this is what you deliver today. I can't wait to receive the visual because it's very practical. I feel like a lot of my clients who know what love languages are is very easy, palpable for them to understand that, to feel that. I just think it's so awful, right? Like how our nation is hyper independent, and what the solution is to our relationships. It's to come together.
That's right. Connection.
And so, yeah, connection.
Right on.
So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Ruth Ann, and then 707 person, and then Carol Jean, and then Suzanne. All righty. All right, Carol Jean, and then Suzanne.
Well, I'm not a professional. I'm a friend of Nick's, but the description intrigued me for use in our family, and I just think this is so right on. And as a visual, seeing everything all lined up in colorful charts, it was wonderful. So I really appreciate you distilling this in such a approachable manner.
Good.
And man, you're right on. It's just right on.
Right on. Good. Thank you, Carol Jean. I'm so glad you were here. Really. Tell your family I said hello. Suzanne?
Yeah, well, I want to just echo a big thank you and so much appreciation for all the time it must have taken you over the years to create this kind of a easy to follow map that is visual. It left me with a sense of, I have control over this instead of it being sort of ethereal and vague.
Right.
I can look at this chart and these numbers and get something specific to work on. And also the part about just acknowledging the feeling and accepting the feeling. That's really key for me. So it was a great webinar. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll send you all
good.
I'll send you all the quiz as well.
Yes.
And I take this quiz every New Year's Day and every July 4th. Okay. And so does my wife. And then whenever I have friends over, I go, hey, you want to take my quiz? And they're like, oh my God, this is me. Exactly. How did you do that? But because, like things happen in life and you get in a rut, you don't realize it. And when I took this quiz last June, I taught this workshop at the National Foster Parent Association conference in Virginia, and it was well received. But I found that my endorphin score was really high, and I thought, oh wow, that's my main issue is endorphins. Mm-hmm. So I changed my fitness routine, and I found that I'm older now and I'm not doing CrossFit anymore and I'm not heaving a bunch of weights. So I went to the local senior center and I joined a water fitness class. Now, everybody in that pool is a lot older than me, okay? But I realized from doing that I am in intense group fitness. Now, I'm the only one who's intensely doing it, but it doesn't matter because I'm in a group and I'm doing intense exercise, and it brought my scores way down. So I check in with myself frequently with this quiz, and it helps me. So.
And you wrote the quiz?
I wrote the quiz. Well, what I did is I studied symptoms that people reported. And I distilled it into like a 20 question per hormone.
Amazing.
Yeah.
May I say something about your quiz?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I first started off with my position, which it's been a year and a half ago, it was like a quantitative stress quiz. So people were just like going down and like getting all these numbers. It's just like they would see over 100. They're like, what does this mean? Like, and it was just like stressful. Like, it's just like, oh, well, obviously you're on the platform of like being stressed. So I did a lot of research, and that's how I found you and your research and how it like correlated into hormones and this and that. And, you know, I wanted them to understand like, hey, it's not just, you're not just a number. Don't look at that number.
Right.
It's more, it's more than just a number. It's about the hormones, because again, like what you're saying, like, generational trauma, I'm dealing with that, like with these, you know, individuals that I'm, you know, assisting, and I'm trying to help them assist that, and actually helping them understand that. And so again, like you were always like kind of perpetually like in my research, like I was like, this guy. So again, I honestly like feel very honored today, like, so to actually speak with you. But you know, I have all this, and I'm able to like come back to like my participants, be like, this is what you're dealing with. Like, hey, this is what your hormonal deficit is. This is what you got to do. Da 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 da. Because before I was like, I mean, I'm trying. Like I'm doing the best that I can with what I have, with the little resources I have for 12 to 16 weeks, which is little
That's
nothing.
tiny. Yeah.
That is tiny. And I only have 1 hour a week out of that. So it's just like, okay, how do I crunch that? How do I crunch that? So,
Good.
Nick, like, no, thank you. Like you have no idea like how amazing this is, like, for me, and, for the people that you will help me influence. And I hope to be a part of your newsletter so I can see more of your impactful like seminars, because you're a truly amazing person.
Okay.
So no, I've been like,
I'll send you the $20 later.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. I've been researching you. Like you've been like, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so glad that you were here tonight. Thank you, all of you. And Suzanne, thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh my gosh.
That
Total
this worked
pleasure.
out for us.
Total pleasure.
I look forward to seeing you all again soon, especially for the second half.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you so
Say
much.
hi to
Thank
your family.
you.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Appreciate
Take care.
it. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much, Suzanne.
Thank you, Nick. It was a total pleasure.
All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.